Let's be honest, when you think of games related to The Lord of the Rings, you think of The Two Towers and Return of the King on the PlayStation 2, Gamecube and Xbox consoles. Incredibly iconic games that many wish for there to be a remastered version of. I don't know who I need to beg to make a remastered version of this game, but please, I beg you, please make one, take my money, please! But perhaps for a small portion of you, the game that comes to mind is today's topic, The Hobbit. Is this game just as deserving of a remaster? Or is there a reason why it has become one of the more obscure Tolkien-related video games ever created?
This is the tale of Bilbo Baggins, a hobbit with no idea of the adventures about to befall him.
The Hobbit was released on the PlayStation 2, Gamecube and Xbox back in 2003. It was developed by Inevitable Entertainment, who had only released one game prior, a game named Tribes Aerial Assault, a title most of you have probably not even heard of.
Official PlayStation Magazine exclaims, "Goodbye, Halo."
The Hobbit was released just a month before The Return of the King saw movie theaters, so it's incredibly safe to say that the hype for Lord of the Rings was huge at the time. However, many people, and including myself honestly, may have completely ignored a game like The Hobbit, and perhaps not even known that it was in fact the prelude to Lord of the Rings in the first place. But for those of you that did play it, most of you seem to have extremely positive memories of the experience. You feel as passionate for this game as I did for The Prince of Persia, which was released the same year. To be fair, I was only 12 at the time, and my main focus at that age was to touch boobs for the first time, and not to play a game based on a book that was released in 1937. A game where the front cover is of a very cartoony and not epic looking character doesn't exactly scream out, "Play me!" to anyone walking by it in a video game store. And you have to remember that the way most of us picked games back then was either via word of mouth or because the cover art looked appealing. And this was just sort of odd looking. Even looking at it right now, it's sort of nightmare material. And that seemed to be the consensus amongst reviewers back when it was originally released. Across all consoles, it got around a 60 out of 100 on Metacritic. A decent game that some remember fondly, but it wasn't going to be on anyone's must-play list of 2003. A few reviewers pointing out that the only people that would truly enjoy this game were Tolkien fans and maybe young gamers because of the juvenile art style. And to be fair, the art style is pretty goofy. The character design, while charming to look at in retrospective, looking at them now, they look fantastic. At the time, that style just wasn't in anymore. Gamers were growing up and we didn't want childish, we wanted real. But for those who looked past the cartoony visuals or simply wanted to experience Bilbo Baggins' journey firsthand, the game offered a surprisingly faithful adaptation of The Hobbit.
The Wood Elves returned and captured the weary dwarves, but Bilbo popped on his ring just in time.
Funny enough, the PS2 game captures the Hobbit story better than the multi-million-dollar movies did. It doesn't try to make Bilbo Baggins look like an action hero, or turn every walk into a slow-motion battle sequence. Instead, it feels like the actual book. That's if you can look past the fact that Bilbo fights through hordes of enemies, like a whole army of enemies, and he does it all by himself with no help. I would have loved to see more about the dwarves because most of their dialogue is optional and super basic, and they sort of just stand around and wait for you to talk to them. The story is simple, charming, and more about curiosity and courage than chaos and carnage. No manufactured love triangles or whole characters that never really existed, just a fun, bright adventure that could be easily enjoyed. But just a quick side note, I actually love the Hobbit movie, so come at me in the comments, I dare ya. Don't come at me, please be kind. The story is told through a mix of in-game cutscenes, narrated slideshows, and the occasionally shockingly high-quality pre-rendered clips that make you wish the whole game looked like that. And that was pretty common at the time. I think every trailer back then only showed the high-quality, amazing 3D animated cutscenes, and then they do the old switcheroo, and in the in-game stuff would just be, still pretty alright, but nowhere near as good.
It was a quiet night in Lake Town when Bard noticed a golden light in the distance. His men thought gold was flowing from the mountain, but Bard knew it was dragon fire.
The slideshows are simple, sure, but they do their job bridging each chapter with just enough context to keep the story moving. The voice acting is also top tier and fits in perfect for this style of game. Again, because of the art style, they needed to make sure that the tone of each line wasn't too epic and had a touch of that childish demeanor to it.
It was just a dream. Just a dream. But what an adventure!
Now, since this is a video game, obviously, a lot of the narrative unfolds through the gameplay itself. The developers could have easily gone the Two Towers and Return of the King route and made it a full-on hack and slash adventure, but they actually took a more creative approach. Instead of just telling us what happened, they sort of made us play through it instead. Whereas with the other games, they told us what was happening and then made us fight our way through it. Take Bilbo's run-in with the trolls, for example. They could have just told us what happened, but instead it's its own level and you had to sneak around carefully without getting caught and squished into jelly. It's the first time that Bilbo actually gets to show off his burglar skills to the dwarves, so it's an incredibly important scene. They could have just told us what happened, but luckily they made us experience it. Later on, when Bilbo and the dwarves are captured by the elves in the woodland realm, the game turns it into a surprisingly fun stealth mission. There is a good bit of backtracking, some light puzzle solving, and of course the trusty One Ring to help you slip past guards. All of which leads to that satisfying barrel escape iconic. Then there's Smaug's Lair, a mix of tricky platforming and genuine tension as you tiptoe around mounds of gold, hoping you don't wake up the big guy. This is a level with no combat whatsoever, but it just so happens to be one of the most memorable missions. But for those of us who are just into pure action, there are plenty of missions where this is the main focus. The spider fighting mission that takes place in Mirkwood, and yes, it's pulled straight from the books, is a level that will test your combat skills to the maximum and even had me rage quitting at times. Then there's the Battle of the Five Armies, and honestly this level is a blast. After a bit of stealth and some puzzles, the game throws you straight into the chaos. You are facing orcs, goblins and other baddies from all sides, and the level makes great use of the combat system. And it's the final section of the game, so this is where all of Bilbo's techniques that you've picked up along the way come into play. And for whatever reason, I was really bad at this game, and there was whole sections where I took the coward's way out and I would just run past groups of enemies because I was so close to death. How did you guys play this game as kids? What the hell? One of the things that make Lord of the Rings games so great is being able to explore iconic locations that you've seen in the movies. Defending Helm's Deep, or maybe fighting the Balrog alongside Gandalf in the Third Age. I'm not sure what they were thinking there, but okay, cool. Sadly, with The Hobbit, the feeling of being somewhere familiar just didn't resonate with me. It was nice seeing their version of the Shire or even the Lonely Mountain, but every location we visited felt more like a video game level than a world that I was discovering. Mythic Vic, what are you talking about? A video game that feels like a video game? What a stupid thing to complain about. Well, when I played games like The War in the North or The Third Age, for example, it felt like I was exploring Middle-earth, not as if I jumped into a painting in Mario 64. Now keep in mind that 70% of the gameplay is like a platforming experience, so the level design, while fun to explore, has obviously been made to reflect that. Everything that is meant to be climbed onto or explored sticks out like a sore thumb. Vines and ropes hang in every direction. Objects you were meant to scale make the map look like a video game level instead of a real location. From a gameplay perspective, it's fantastic. You pretty much always know where to go next or which obstacle you have to parkour your way up to. As a platformer, the levels are a big playground for us to explore, with many secrets hidden if you are willing to look for them. The levels, while being quite linear, do a good job of making you have to pay attention to what you are doing and where you are going. I even needed to use a YouTube guide once or twice to figure out where to go next. Honestly, I was awful at this game. But from the perspective of someone that wants to be immersed into the world of Middle-earth, it all feels a little heartless. The Hobbit seems to struggle with its own identity, as if even the developers didn't know who they were making the game for. The super cartoony graphics and obvious layout of each level make the game appear to be made for children. However, the hard puzzles, difficult boss fights, and really precise platforming make this game feel like it was made for experienced adults. Now, as I've already mentioned a few times, The Hobbit is quite a difficult game. Most of you watching most likely played it as a kid, and if you managed to beat it back then, I give you a round of applause. Let's start with the platforming, which is what will be taking up most of your time. Bilbo can jump, climb, and pole vault his way through each level. And as I already mentioned, each level is relatively easy to follow, but the difficulty comes from the precise jumps needed to make your way through them. I would say that 9 out of 10 jumps are skill related, but every so often you would come across a ledge that just seemed impossible to grab onto. When missing a jump, not only was it frustrating to climb all the way back up, but because Bilbo's legs are made from matchsticks, he would lose almost all of his health from the smallest of falls. Now, it's very clear to me that during playtesting, the developers could tell how frustrating it was to lose 5 minutes of progress because you missed one simple jump. And to overcome that, they have added a save point after every obstacle. I probably saved more times while playing The Hobbit than I did in every game I played this year combined. You ever play a game like Skyrim on a harder difficulty and you just end up saving like every 10 seconds? You feel sort of ashamed and embarrassed deep down, even though no one will ever know. I sort of got the same feeling and experience with The Hobbit. Because regaining your health was so limited by how many potions you could carry, there were plenty of times I would purposefully die so I could reset to the previous save point only 20 seconds away. Meaning you could try the same jumps over and over without any real repercussions. Ooh, I don't like how many hits I took in a row there. I'm just gonna die on purpose and try again. Luckily, all of that doesn't stop the immense satisfaction you feel when you complete a difficult section or boss fight, but it just also doesn't feel very authentic. The platforming as a whole, while quite basic, is still one of the main strengths of the game. And yes, I make jokes about how many save points there are, but I'm thankful they were added into the game. Many controllers would have been smashed to pieces without them. Not from me, I don't have anger issues, but I mean from people when they were kids playing this game. I don't break my stuff anymore. I did as a kid though. Another reason this game stands out from most other Tolkien-related games is because of the puzzles. There is a good variety of fairly difficult puzzles you will need to solve to progress the story. Some of them require a bit of planning, others a bit of patience, and one or two some luck after a considerable amount of frustration. I was appreciative that the puzzles existed because it added another element to the gameplay. Without them, the game would have just been a simple platformer with combat elements, but with them it becomes a great game that stays fresh throughout. The final part of the gameplay is the combat system. There is no flashy combos or ground finishes, just a sword, a stick, and some rocks. The sword and stick have the same moveset, but the special jump attack differs from one another. The sword deals greater damage, whereas the stick can push back enemies, giving you some well-needed space. You will find yourself doing the same 2 or 3 moves over and over, but because you can die so quickly being a soft, squishy little hobbit and all, you will need to make sure that you are paying attention and not just swinging away aimlessly. Bilbo is also equipped with a pile of rocks that will sometimes be imbued with explosive power. It's a little odd, but boy, are they a lifesaver. The rocks don't do heaps of damage in their basic form, but they can get you out of a pickle when you are low on health. Because you need to manage your health bar so much, the combat goes from simple to a more Dark Souls-esque like scenario rather quickly. You will become overwhelmed in the blink of an eye, forcing you to do some awkward evasive maneuvers. A PS2 game never needed a dodge button more than this one. While you do upgrade your abilities as you play, there really isn't a whole lot to learn as you progress. It definitely feels like something is missing, perhaps more combos or maybe a third weapon perhaps. But overall, the combat is a good challenge, and because you face off against a decent amount of enemy types, it continues to feel fresh throughout the game. One of the more satisfying features of The Hobbit is the loot you will come across, like in every game that has loot. Enemies explode into piles of gems and treasure chests can be found everywhere. Think of the gems as experience points. The more you collect, the more precious health you will gain. The majority of the big value gems are in out of reach places, which forces you to take a detour from the main path. It adds a bit of risk for reward type element to each section and sometimes makes you question if it was worth trying for. So the question we were all here to answer was, does The Hobbit deserve a remake? Well, if I had to choose between The Return of the King or The Hobbit, I would choose Return of the King 9 times out of 10. However, The Hobbit gives what no other Tolkien game brings to the table. It has diverse gameplay mechanics that keep the one playthrough entertaining. The platforming, the combat, and the puzzles, while none of them amazing on their own, combine to make a terrific little adventure perfect for a hobbit like Bilbo. So yes, I would like to see a remaster. I think it would be a success because a lot of people that ignored the game back when it was released on the PlayStation 2, like myself, would definitely see it now and be like, wait, I recognize that weird cover, I'm definitely going to give it a try now. But sadly, because licensed games have started to die off and we never really see them anymore, apart from in mobile form, we'll probably never see a remaster of any of the games in today's video. And also, sadly, as of yet, we haven't had another game that lets us run through the story of The Hobbit. Maybe there was a Lego game, I'm not even sure, but hopefully we get to see that experience again. Alright, thank you very much for watching. My name is Mythic Vic. What are we playing next? I actually don't even know. I think we're doing a weird one. I think we're going to be doing the Game of Thrones game on the PlayStation 3, so I'll probably start playing that today. Alright, thank you very much for watching. Until next time, see ya.